Um, so again, good morning and welcome to the second day of the Lebanon Water Forum, the third forum. This year, unfortunately, we had to hold it virtually, but we are very glad to have all of you attend with us. We are going to have a very interesting session today with our esteemed panelists. I'll just start with some instructions for everyone. First of all, we have interpretation available. You can click on the bottom right bottom. It's the globe. You choose the language that you want, from English to Arabic or Arabic to English, but you have to please mute the original audio to be able to hear the interpreters well. في ترجمة فورية للي بيحب، بدكم بس تضغطوا على الكرة الموجودة بأسفل الشاشة على اليمين تقدروا تحصلوا على ترجمة، بس بدكم تشيلوا الأوديو الأساسي تبع السبيكر لتقدروا تسمعوا المترجمين. السيشن تبعولنا اليوم our session today is going to be on the strategic alignment and integrated planning between interlinked sectors. I'm going to explain a bit about how the proceedings of this session will go on. We will start first with a presentation from Marc Ayoub from IFI. This will be followed by a brief commentaries by Ms. Suzy Hoayek from the Ministry of Energy and Water, Chadi Mohanna from the Ministry of Agriculture, and Pierre from the Lebanese Center for Energy Conservation. Then we will move on to a second presentation by Ramy Boujawdeh from Berytech, after which we will have two other commentaries by Soha Yazbek from the Ministry of Industry and Najib Chedid from the Ministry of Environment. And last but not least, we will have Michele Pierpaoli from the European Union, who will give us the perspective of the international community of the discussions that we will be having today. I will not be long. I just want to say that the existing interlinkages between the resources, especially between water and the associated sectors, often result in embedded inefficiencies and trade-offs, especially in the absence of any aligned and integrated strategies and institutional frameworks. Of course, these interlinkages exist at various scales, and therefore the planning, the actions, and the awareness needs to involve multiple stakeholders, which adds to the complexity of the issue. Integration can be, for example, translated into cooperation between nations, but also on the national level as a strategic alignment between sectors such as the water, the energy, and the food. However, but this also could go even down to the individual user and the behavior of the individual user. And in order to give us an example, some insight into one interlinkage that exists between the energy and wastewater at the level of the service provision in Lebanon. Marc Ayoub from IFI is going to present, to start now by presenting some of the findings of a study that we undertook here at IFI for Oxfam, and this with funding from the EU. This study is really took a lot of effort and work under exceptional circumstances. Marc will present just part of the study because it is really very, very big. And for the sake of time, we will only present one component, which is related to the energy efficiency and the renewable energy in water and wastewater service provision. We still have other components such as social network analysis and social impact assessment that you will be able to read about in the reports that will come out hopefully in the coming few weeks. So we will start now by Marc. Okay, so Marc, go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Rana, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this second day. So as Rana mentioned, it will be a hard task today to summarize a two-year-long project we undertook at the Issam Institute with Oxfam on water energy nexus of water and wastewater services in Lebanon. So I'll try to be brief as much as possible and remain within the 10-15 minutes time frame, showing a bit of the results. Just before starting, I would like to thank Oxfam team for this event and also for the support along this project, and also, of course, the H2O consortium, the EU, for all the insights and comments and reviews on this report. So as Rana mentioned, there will be 5 volumes of this report that will be published very soon, hopefully next month, and you will be able to tackle each output and each component alone. So starting with and focusing today on the water energy nexus and the energy that we have conducted, just a brief overview on the why we conducted this project and what was the rationale behind it. There was a need for a supportive knowledge-based research to understand the interlinkages that were existing between the water and energy sectors, specifically in the energy and the water and wastewater utilities in Lebanon. There's a lot of interdependencies and trade-offs between the two sectors, but Lebanon unfortunately lacks this comprehensive assessment of energy and energy efficiency when it is interlinked in water and wastewater service provision. In addition, the policy framework and the existing frameworks not facilitate the development of this integrated approach and energy efficiency when it comes to water schemes. So what we had tried throughout this project is to bridge this gap and to try to understand the interlinkages and try to analyze them in collaboration and coordination with the 4 regional water establishments, which I would like also to thank today for all the support and data sharing and information provided throughout the project. So the project goals quickly is to examine the roles of energy and particularly electricity in water and wastewater service provision. I will be focusing on this today, but also the project includes 2 other volumes, which are the social impact assessment, which is the associated legal, social, environmental, and economic aspect in this interlinkage, and a social network analysis that are 2 huge volumes that you will be able to read as well when the report is out. Also throughout the project, we analyzed the potential to mainstream energy efficiency, particularly the renewable energy potential in water and wastewater. And we were able to develop and propose a national roadmap for improved energy efficiency in both sectors. So focusing on the energy audit in water and wastewater sectors, what we have done quickly on the methodology and insights of the main findings and the key results. So since January 2019, and as Rana mentions, then throughout 2020 and even until recently, with all the updates and the crisis we have been living, we have been conducting an on-ground energy audit on 62 stations in the world throughout the 4 water establishments, 39 water stations, and 23 wastewater treatment plants. and those were identified in collaboration with the 4 establishments, and on-ground visits and interviews with the employees there were also conducted. We throughout this 2-level energy audit, the first level was a walkthrough energy audit, the visit I have mentioned to the stations, and the second was a desktop-based in-depth energy audit on that went in depth into the pumps and the analysis of the equipment existing at those stations. We based our analysis on the electricity bills that were acquired from the water establishment, as this slide shows. We have 1 year for the Bekaa water establishment, which is 2017, another year, which is 2018 for the South Lebanon water establishment, and 3 years, 16, 17, and 18, for both the Beirut and Mount Lebanon and the North Lebanon water establishment. Quickly on the methodology, we have used indicators or KPIs to assess the performance of those stations, and we used for that 2 main indicators, which is the energy use index (EUI) and the unitary energy cost (UEC), which is the kilowatt hour per meter cube to measure the performance, and the dollar per kilowatt hour to measure the cost. Those were benchmarked based on compared to other case studies in the world, in the region and in the world, and we were able to identify benchmark for those 2 indicators, which you can see here on the screen. And then in order to compare all the stations all together, we used a standardized energy consumption performance indicator and normalized them to the one to the head for the pumps to a 100 meters head. And now I will show a bit of the results in a couple of slides. Also, and once this basic energy audit or the walkthrough energy audit was finalized, we went into an in-depth energy audit to analyze the performance and the necessary power for those for the pumps, existing pumps in the water and wastewater utilities, and to assess the characteristics of those pumps and the efficiency needed knowing the data and the power and the flow and the head that were provided by the establishment. And here we categorized those pumps in 4 categories based on the performance indicator or the efficiency. So not acceptable, less than 60%, acceptable or good, which is a range between 60 and 88%, and when the efficiency or the performance indicator was above 88%, we thought of that something in the data provided or in the analysis is problematic, and we needed to come back to the field to get some more data around it, because some of this performance indicators did not match, or the numbers did not make sense. So this is just a quick overview of the work that has been done, and of course the report will show an in-depth review and analysis of this. Quickly on the results, starting with the South Lebanon water establishment, the analysis have shown that around 40% of the pumps that were audited fall in the good and or acceptable ranges, while the remaining 60% are either not acceptable, which is around 22 pumps, performing below the 60% performance, and the rest are problematic, which are 29 pumps exceeding the 88%. So 60% are either not acceptable or problematic, while the remaining 40% are in the good or acceptable range. Moving to the north, around 70% of the pumps that were audited in the audited stations are not performing well. So around 24 pumps have an acceptable efficiency below 60%, and the remaining 19% or 9 pumps are problematic. Namely, those were located in the following stations that are shown here: the Bahsas, the Ubbe, Jrade, Shikka, and Layoun in Akkar pumping station. Moving to the Bekaa, the BWE has reflected the highest percentage, which is 58% among all establishments for unacceptable pumping stations, showing a performance assessment below 60% of total of 7 pumps. Those were located namely at the Lucy station, 5 pumps, and 2 pumps at the Shamsin station, while the remaining ones show a problematic performance. And for the Beirut and Mount Lebanon water establishment, 46% of the audited pumps of the available pumping systems, which are 39 pumps, are within the acceptable 60 to 75% efficiency range, in addition to 29 pumps that are in good conditions. And this combines to around 70% of the pumps that are acceptable, while the remaining 30% are in the unacceptable or problematic range. So the takeaways from this energy audit is that there was no that we have analyzed and discussed in this report is that there is no direct correlation between the stations' electricity bills. So once we got the electricity bills, we analyzed the performance or the ranking of those stations from the high energy consuming to the lowest one. And we thought that there was a correlation between the high electricity or energy consuming station with the pumps or the pump performance of those stations. But the results and the analysis have shown that there is no direct correlation. High energy cost is not always caused by the pump performance itself, but it could be exacerbated or added to other indicators or other parameters that we will see also in the study. So this in-depth energy audit has revealed some of those takeaways. At the wastewater level and the energy audit conducted at the 23 wastewater treatment plants. So we have gathered a data sheet, the data that you are seeing on the screen, combining all the characteristics of those wastewater treatment plants, the effluent and influent and effluent characteristics, and also everything related to the electricity consumption, the EDL cost, all the DG, etc., the diesel generator, and electricity consumption. And we compared the performance based on KPIs, important KPIs that I will analyze or I will show in a bit. You can see them here at the right, which are mainly the kilowatt hour per meter cube, the kilowatt hour per population equivalent per year, and the kilowatt hour per kilogram of BOD and COD removed. So since most or all the audited are not of the same size or of the same class and population served, we have classified those wastewater treatment plants into 5 classes that you can see here on the screen, from SC1 to SC5, based on the population served. And here you can see the number of stations that fall within each class and the name of those stations. The primary indicators that was used in this methodology is the kilowatt hour per PE per year. It has the same performance of the kilowatt hour per kilogram of COD removed that was used for internal checking. And the secondary indicator was the degree of utilization of the wastewater treatment plants itself. So a guide and target values that you can also here see were determined based on the literature, based on the size class and the treatment type. So we have here identified in those wastewater treatment plants 3 main types of treatment: the activated sludge, the extended aeration, and the activated sludge with trickling filter. So here's again showing just the performance indicator or the kilowatt hour per PE per year throughout all the plants and all classes, the 5 classes. So most of the audited stations, their performance indicator or the kilowatt hour per PE per year is outside of the target value determined in the literature. And this, we will showcase the causes of that later on. 3 only are within the values, the plus or minus 10%, and also the other 2, Saghbin and I'at, are within an acceptable range, even if a bit outside of the guide value. So when we go to type or treatment type within those wastewater treatment plants, the results or the analysis has shown that the plants that carry activated sludge or extended aeration processes show the lowest energy consumption, reaching up to 1.6 kilowatt hour per kilogram of COD removed for the first up to Selata, and the other one reaching up to 2.6 for the Badaran plant. And here we can see the on the screen the activated sludge in orange. The green is the extended aeration, and the blue is the trickling filter. So the ones that are following this activated sludge with trickling filter are characterized by the highest energy performance and energy consumption, reaching up to 4.4 kilowatt hour per kilogram of COD removed. And this has to come again to the size of this and the population served of this wastewater treatment plant. So plotting this indicator, the kilowatt hour per kilogram of COD removed versus the population served, it shows that the ones that have a smaller PE served, a smaller population equivalent service, have the highest energy performance. And once this number of PE served increases, the energy consumption decreases. So quickly again on the key takeaways of this, the design aspects are the main cause or lie behind inefficiency of some of those wastewater treatment plants, which have led to high energy cost. So out of the 16 audited stations or secondary treatment plants facilities that were audited, 14 are operating below capacity. So this has to come again with the degree of utilization that I mentioned earlier. So the range of this should be usually the benchmark is between 80 to 100%. So above 80 or 85% of utilized capacity of the plan. But 14 out of the 16 are outside of this range in the audited stations here in Lebanon. Another takeaway is that smaller plants are more energy intensive than larger ones, and as the population served increases, energy consumption decreases, with high energy consumption being attributed to plants serving the lowest number of people. This finding highlights the importance of cost sustainability in the operation and maintenance activities in terms of energy design, the sizing, and the planning for future wastewater treatment plants. So this report and this volume will include a long series or a huge number of recommendations that we were able to develop. And this is just a quick representation of what the volume includes. So it includes a set of recommendations at the technology level, O&M level, policy, planning, design criteria. And here I try to show just an example of each. For example, for the technology, the use of high energy efficiency electric motors, the use of VFTs when there is variable flow and pressure. Also at the O&M level, we have developed, along with DAR, Sha'ar and partners, a set of good practices in the O&M of pumping stations. And here I would like to thank Mr. Najib and his team, and also Balsam Nami for all the support on this. So there is a huge manual that was developed, and you will be able to find it in the report, developed with DAR and the O&M of water stations. And here, this is a guiding document that the water establishment and the engineers working at the stations could follow in future operation and maintenance activities. Also at the policy level, we have developed a set of recommendations when it comes to the pricing strategy, the regulatory framework for renewable energy implementation, and also for the planning of future water station and water treatment plants. The TOR for any future plant should include a set of energy efficiency standards, and these specifications should be homogenized along all the water establishment, and should be centralized also through one monitoring system. Moving to the wastewater, same thing, a set of recommendations at the equipment, operations, network, design, planning, and policy levels were developed. Here, quickly, when it comes to operations, for example, the odor control and ventilation, the, heating and cooling, the audits of all the existing equipment, For the network, the separation between the two systems, the stormwater drainage and the sewage network should be done, because in many stations we have visited and audited the drainage networks are still combined, and this increases the challenges for the wastewater treatment plant. Also, in the design of future wastewater treatment plants, the site selection and the population equivalent should be taken and prioritized, and also energy efficiency should be included in any future process to be used. The wastewater tariff is another thing we have tackled at the policy level, and the treatment of industrial and medical waste and the installation of VFDs and energy efficiency equipment is another thing at the network and equipment level, which also is tackled throughout this project. Moving to the renewable energy potential and market assessment, and here, as I mentioned, as part of our audit, we have identified the renewable energy potential or the available lands within the water and wastewater utilities. So not something that a private land or something outside of the station, but within the stations. And the target of this volume or this report was to give an overview of the existing legal framework for the renewable energy, but to assess also the potential for renewable energy in water and wastewater utilities, especially with the electricity problem currently, and that has been a big problem over the past years. And water establishments are facing real problems and real challenges when it comes to electricity consumption and diesel cost for their diesel generators. So we have conducted a market perspective or a market assessment for renewable energy, talking to people in the industry and assessing the potential with some case studies and recommendations. So this shows just some of the areas and available lands and some of the water stations. And
لانه انا قلت انه ما عندي الرقم، لا اذا بقول لهم المتبقي بدي يصير اقول له الرقم بلكي طلع عنا اكثر.
Sorry, but I cannot. You can mute.
Please, if you can all mute your microphone.
So this is just an idea about the lands. Here in Zgharta, for example, it's a reservoir. This is a reservoir, and this is the area above the reservoir. Also in Tripoli, this is another example of a reservoir, the rooftop of which is empty and can be used for solar implementation of solar project PV implementation. This is another example in Dayshonit B'Abda. These are the decantation tanks, a huge area that could be used also to minimize and reduce the energy consumption or the energy cost. So what we have done is an assessment of the audited stations with an economic modeling. This is just a quick overview of the approach, of the discount rate that was used, the EDL tariff consideration, the capital cost, the yield, the area per 1 kilowatt hour, and the system lifetime. And throughout this economic modeling, we have been able to perform this for all the facilities, for the following facilities that were audited. And you can see the potential. This is without storage, and this was limited to the availability only of solar during the day, without the solar consideration for economic purposes here. But of course, this is something that we could be considering and updating in our future modeling. So some of the stations, as you can see, for example, in Shamsin and Dayshonit B'Abda, can produce a huge amount of electricity, and this can phase out some of the diesel generators used. In other areas, and since the area is not large, lower electricity or PV production could be observed. So again, there is a huge modeling in this, and this could be accessed also through the volume when the report is out. And not only this, so throughout the modeling, we have been able to develop the potential which is the recommended solar PV, but also to assess the annual savings that could be at the establishment level, how much they could reduce diesel and electricity consumption from EDL, the payback period for such project, and the expected LCOE for this. And this is also accessible from the report itself. At the wastewater, quickly, I know I've been maybe out of time, so quickly at the wastewater level, 2 case studies were assessed. At the here at the left-hand side, the Tripoli wastewater treatment plant, which has huge areas also which could be used, and the I'at wastewater treatment plants also here at the right. In the right-hand side pictures, where some areas could be used for this. So around 35,000 meters squared of available land and rooftop could be used here in I'at. Also, we did not consider storage here, but we can produce around 250 kilowatt peak, equivalent to 27% of the utility performance or energy use throughout this assessment. Moving at the recommendation side, also there is a set of policy, finance, utility, and design recommendations for the renewable energy market assessment. At the medium and long term, we need to develop a renewable energy integration in all water and wastewater utilities at the national level. Increase the synchronization between EDL and all the facilities, and gradually eliminating EDL subsidies and increasing the electricity tariff. At the immediate level, we can advocate for some of the draft laws that have been developed and ready maybe for ratifying or ratification. The power wheeling agreement, the monitor and yearly, for example, the greenhouse gas emissions to set the mitigation action plans, and prioritize the adequate implementation of multi-site net metering by addressing the technical challenges and the grid instability. At the finance level, also enhancing the renewable energy affordability by exempting renewable energy component from import and other taxation, assessing the potential possibility and reallocation of some funds and loans for renewable energy, and rethinking the relationship between EDL and the water establishment. At the design level, a techno-economic feasibility of hydro storage project should be considered. And also at the immediate level, the mainstreaming the development of solar and the design of water and wastewater future utilities whenever applicable. Finally, we need to think or start seeking public-private partnership for solar PV and implementation and maintenance at the medium and long-term time frame. And at the immediate level, we can regularly monitor energy consumption and efficiency through scheduled energy and financial audits. So I will stop here and we'll be ready later to answer any question. And of course, once the report is out, you could be able to access those in details. So back to you, Rana. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Marc. Please, if you have any immediate question now to Marc, you can ask it in Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. I think we have some questions here that we will choose just a couple for the sake of time. Marc, there's a question. What is the primary cause of high energy cost in the potable water pumping if it's not pump efficiency?
So our analysis has shown, as I mentioned, that there is no direct correlation from the pump between the pump itself or the pump characteristics, the pump performance, and the electricity cost. But this has to do sometimes with the type of fuel that is used, for example, for the diesel generation, and also in the operation and maintenance and the leakage, for example, of and the networks and of those pumps. So sometimes the pump itself, the performance of it is good, but the surrounding networks and the maintenance and operation of it are not performing well, and this is causing increasing pumping operations and thus increasing electricity cost and consumption at this level.
Okay, we'll take one more question. if the water utility is running the pumping station only on the L, the solar system remains feasible?
Not all the water utilities are using only EDL. Most of the time they have half of the day they are using diesel generators, and the rest they are using the EDL current whenever it is there. So the assessment has shown that some of the pumps, because not all of them are using all the pumps at the station. So in some stations they are using 2 to 3 main pumps. And when using solar, using the area for solar generation for those only 2 to 3 pumps, they can really phase out the EDL and totally rely on the solar during the day, and then leave it for the night to use the EDL whenever it is there.
Okay, thank you, Marc. We will now move to Ms. Suzy Hoayek. I don't know if there's a need to introduce you to this community, but Ms. Suzy, she is the advisor to the Minister for the Water Sector at the Ministry of Energy and Water. Suzy is going to give us just a brief insight about how the integration between the different sectors, water and energy, water and agriculture, was mainstreamed in the reviewed national water strategy. What kind of coordination mechanisms did they use, and what were the priorities that were set? Suzy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rana. Thank you, Marc, for the presentation, and good morning to everyone. I worked with you as a team on this very important study. It's one of the major studies and one of the major factors that we deal with in our daily operations of the water and wastewater facilities. And it is, let me start with the nexus, which is water energy, and then we'll move to the water agriculture or water food nexus. Regarding water and energy, there is a very strong interlinkage. And one of them, without electricity, we cannot operate our water and wastewater facilities, and we cannot deliver our services to the citizens. So in many cases, we need to pump water, we need to treat the water and the potable water, and definitely when we are treating wastewater, we need a lot of energy for oxygen production and the treatment process. So these are two very energy consuming factors: pumping the water and the wastewater, and treating water and wastewater. And this is the main factor that challenges the water establishments and their daily works. And this is something that we have taken a lot into consideration in our strategy, and we take a lot into consideration in every project we are designing, or we have been designing, let's say, from 2 years back to and forward. We do try to integrate, for example, solar panels wherever possible. We know that we have done a lot of solar energy in pumping stations for wells. We are considering renewable energy sources in several treatment plants that we are currently designing, be it through solar or through other means of power generation, maybe anaerobic digestion, maybe in the sludge treatment process. So in any process that can generate eventually electricity. So this aspect is very important. And when we started this study, you know that we fought for having the wastewater included in this study to also understand how we can include renewable energy in wastewater treatment. And this study is a part of the strategy and part of the recommended studies that we wanted to do in our strategy, and the time was very opportune to start it as we were also starting the revision or the update of our strategy. Electricity bill is one of the main major expenses. It's not only an expense, it's a debt and an expense at the same time. So water establishments are indebted to the EDL, and at the same time they have to pay fuel to generators and to operate their facilities. So yes, it's a very challenging thing. It is very costly. We do not have it 24 hours. We have to, in all of our designs, to rethink our infrastructure or our networks and our pumps to accommodate for the lack of electricity that we have, and accommodate some types of renewable energy. And it is something that complicates a little bit our water networks and wastewater networks and treatment facilities. So wherever we have the opportunity, because so far we have not reached a 24-hour electricity, so wherever we have the opportunity to include renewable energy, we are doing that. And definitely when we say renewable energy, it means additional capex, but maybe on the OPEX, it will reduce our OPEX. But this is also another hindering factor. Do we have the capex to do the renewable energy upfront or not? So all of these are being taken into consideration, everything we plan for, and even everything we are already designing, currently designing. And we try to accommodate as much as possible renewable energy into our designs. And this is not only for the environmental aspect of renewable energy, but also, and most importantly, let me say, for the operating expenses of having diesel generators and normal electricity. So this is on the part of the water energy nexus. And there is also the other part, which is the water, not directly food, but let me say agriculture or irrigation, or the other aspect of producing food products. It is a major part of our strategy. We aim at optimizing our water resources. We aim at optimizing our water supply, and we also aim at optimizing our renewable energy sources whenever we need to pump for irrigation. And we all know that irrigation is the biggest consumer, water consumer, so it's also the biggest energy consumer, and the biggest amounts of water are pumped for irrigation. So there also you have this these three factors coming together, and optimizing all of them is necessary. We have to know why we are cultivating this type of product. How much of a priority is it? Does it have a market? Can it be exported or used nationally? Second, what are the possibilities of having a water resource that doesn't require energy, that can be supplied through gravity? And if not, and if we have to pump, can we have enough land to do some type of renewable energy or solar panels or whatever can be done there? So and we are taking all of everything that happens under or in coordination with the ministry and with the water establishments. We try to take into account all of these factors in as much as we can, and as per our mandate. And I should highlight here something, because it's there and it was proven through, I don't know if Dr. Wasim Daher from the South is with us today, but they have done a very interesting assessment on going from renewable energy to, from diesel generators to renewable energy. And because in the South, there has been this, no, I can't say it's strategy, because it cannot be a strategy to pump the water from, all the water from groundwater. And this is changing with Dr. Wasim and with the strategy that he has done. But back in the time, it was only pumping. And this has a major operation cost and operation expense on the South. And with the strategy that they have done and the comparison that they did and the optimizations they have done, it was proven that they really need to shift to renewable energy, but the storage doesn't happen in batteries. The storage happens in water reservoirs, and increasing the sizes of the water reservoirs, so that whenever we are able to benefit from the solar energy, we pump more water for later use, instead of having all of this energy stored in a battery that is more costly than increasing the reservoir size. So all of this is in the water sector. All of these ideas have become part of our design and part of our vision, be it the ministry or the water establishments. So I don't know. I hope I answered your question, Rana. Over to you.
I just want to ask you a question. Do you believe that we have the right coordination mechanisms through our institutions to actually be able to mainstream this thinking of integration? Because, I mean, to be honest, right now, in my opinion, we're operating a lot depending on champions such as yourself, who really understands this topic and really tries to push for it. So do you feel that is there a way that this approach, this thinking can be more institutionalized through either soft mechanisms? I don't think we need maybe more committees, but what is your opinion?
No, I think, Rana, I think things have improved a lot in the, even although we have faced a lot of challenges in the past 2 or 3 years. However, things in terms of coordination and in terms of changing the vision and changing the way we see things and we design things has started. Yani, this change has started. We do not function in the same way that we used to function maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Everyone is aware that renewable energy is a major part of our projects and of our functioning. The water establishments themselves can feel the difference whenever they have, for example, a well pumping on solar panels for some time and not only on diesel generators, and they are demanding that. We have champions, yes, and you only need a few champions to move forward. The DGs, the directors that we have today at the water establishments are doing an excellent job and are changing the path or the track that was taken previously, and are engaging, be it with innovative solutions or a different way of seeing things. With I mean, they want innovation, they want more even in their own establishments, turning them electronic establishments, having systems, tools that help them advance. They want this. Maybe they are stuck a little bit with the staffing that they have, the need for building capacities, and they are not able to build capacities, but the will is there. And I think all the donors and all the NGOs they work with and the academics they work with, they know that they have the will. And even at the ministry, things are changing and maybe slowly, but I think we are surely changing towards somewhere we all want to reach.
Okay, thank Thank you, Suzy. I will move now to Mr. Chedid Mohanna, Director of Rural Development and Natural Resources at the Ministry of Agriculture. Chedid, as we heard from Suzy, really irrigation is a very important aspect of the water strategy. We also know that the Ministry of Agriculture did have a new strategy. How is the interlinkage between water or even between energy? Even there was a mention about our trade policy, food security. How were all of these aspects taken into consideration while developing the new strategy of the Ministry of Agriculture?
Yeah, well, thank you, Rana, and hello to everyone, the panelists and the participants. Well, in fact, the topic is highly interesting, in fact, because as Suzy just said it, we are in a world of change, and also we need a change of the mentality. Basically, the Ministry of Agriculture launched very recently the new strategy of the Ministry of Agriculture 2021-2025. And yeah, we started working, and we are taking into account the role of water, since it was well mentioned, 60% of the water used goes for agriculture. And we need to do something in order to increase the efficiency of this water that is used. So we are working on what we still call, unfortunately, the modern techniques of irrigation, which is the drip irrigation that has like 40 years of age, but we still call it the modern irrigation techniques. It is well mentioned, and we are trying to promote it as much as possible at the Ministry of Agriculture. This is the pillar number 4 in the strategy, if somebody has access to it. Another point also that we try to tackle is the use of renewable energy. And we used it as a prototype something like 8 years ago when we provided solar panels and batteries to artesian wells in order to see what would be the impact. In fact, we found that it is a double-edged thing, because for sure it was very much rewarding into savings of fuel. But on the other side, you know, there was no more, let's say, barrier for the farmer in using more and more water and pumping more and more water, because before using this renewable energy, he was paying for fuel. So one of the restrictive issue was the dollars that he was paying every month for the price of the fuel. So he was restricting a little bit his pumping. But since he was using now free energy, then he was opening like the water valves ad libitum. And here there is, I think, a very good work to be done with the Ministry of Water and Energy in this sense, because it's very important from carbon emissions, from saving money. We're going to food security. We as Ministry of Agriculture are, let's say, advocating more and more for people to plant more, to expand their agriculture. But this means more water to be used in agriculture. So we need to work on these two topics, the efficiency and the renewable energy. Everybody now is talking about removing the subsidies on the fuel. So we don't know where the price of the fuel will be. And it's definitely going to be a barrier for expanding in agriculture, you know. The existing collaboration and coordination between the entities of the Lebanese administration are unfortunately sometimes based on the demand. If I take the water strategy that is being prepared by the Ministry of Water and Energy, and we have already, we gave the Ministry of Energy, and Suzy was pushing us for that to get the data. We gave them the data, and it was taken, I think, into account. But again, it was only data. So it's the census of 2010. It was some later gathered data in 2016. but we never sat together to work on that. Same for us when we did our strategy. I don't think somebody from the Ministry of Agriculture went and had a meeting with the people from the Ministry on Water and Energy. So this is something that is still lacking between us. We are considered to be the end users as agriculture of the water, but in this, the end users should have his word in order to get this final. Everybody's pointing that yes, the Ministry of Agriculture should develop more areas, more crops, but for that we need the water. And here it's very important to coordinate more together. This is why at the end, or the ultimate solution is to have a Ministry of Planification. We cannot count on the existing bodies that are supposed to coordinate among us. The Ministry of Agriculture is doing his own strategy, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Water. This is not the correct way of doing things. And I don't think that creating more coordination bodies would be the solution. Coordination bodies are already there. There is a committee for water. It was established, I think it was a FAO project, something like 7-8 years ago, but it's been 2 years, the committee did not meet. So the last 2 years, 2 strategies have been made between the agriculture and the water and energy, but this committee that is essential to the work of both ministries didn't meet. So there is a crucial problem. Sometimes it is linked, unfortunately, to politics. If the 2 ministers are not from the same, let's say, political point of view, they would not meet. At the technical levels, the staff meets in workshops, in a meeting like this one, in technical meetings. It is happening, and coordination can be done there. Sometimes, unfortunately, we wait for projects to meet or collaborate together, which is not the right way to do things. I take the example of the water establishment. Suzy mentioned that they have a problem in their organigram. They need agriculture engineers. They need irrigation specialists. They don't have them. And they don't ask our collaboration. It happened that, for example, in I'at, we had a very good collaboration with the Beka water establishment because it was driven by a project. I don't remember if it was a FAO or EU project. So why do things work properly when it is driven by a project, and why they cannot work properly when we're doing it together? So this is something that we should emphasize more and more on. I don't know if I answered what you...
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, you answered great. I think maybe Suzy will later, I'm not sure, would want to address some of the points that you brought up. I just have one question for you. Talking on the higher strategic level, even Suzy mentioned it, this issue of expanding of our agriculture, irrigated land, etc. It has a lot to do with our economic policy, our trade policy. How was that taken into consideration? How easy is it during even these times to even open such a topic about imports, exports, and all of that?
Yeah, you know, like I'll take an example. You know, in the Mackenzie action plan, one of the strategic crops for Lebanon was avocado. And we all know that avocado is a water consuming plant. So yes, if we are working on that, we need to find a way to have more water accessibility. And I totally agree that if we have water that does not need to be pumped, it's much better. If we have everything by gravity, it would be much easier for everyone. But then we go back to the problem of the Bara, the hills, the hill lakes, the dams, etc. So it's always this problem that gets up to the surface again. Then there is another issue, which is the policy of the country. The policy, now we are facing a food security problem. We used to talk about food safety. We had the luxury of having enough food. Now we don't have this luxury of having enough food. So we import 80% of what we eat. If we want to try to reduce this bill, we need to find a way. But now we have the other problem, because with the devaluation of the Lebanese pound, the farmers and the traders are finding much more interest in exporting our local products to get fresh dollar, which is normal. But on the other side, you find it on the market, the price of orange, for example. I just made the calculation the other day. One orange is costing 2,000 Lebanese lira now, if you take it by the kilo. You know, so things are getting more and more crazy. We need to sit all together and to take decisions. What do we want in the agriculture sector? And if we want to increase more, we need to have the means, mainly in water, in other entrants also, but now we're talking about the water, in order to fill this gap.
Okay, thank you, Chadi. Suzy, if you have something really quick before...
yes, really quickly. Chadi is what he said, I cannot but agree with him. Coordination should have happened, and it was intended to happen. Coordination with the ministries was intended to happen, especially the ministry before anyways, the strategy is not approved by the Council of Ministers. We still have time to do that. The problem is that we faced a lot of challenges. We were supposed to meet with even the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Agriculture, and all of the ministries. And to highlight even further what Chadi was saying, if we go back to our discussion yesterday about the National Water Council, one of the main, well, this is how I see it, one of the main missions of such a council would be to sit all together, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Energy and Water, and say, how much water do we have? What are the crops that we want to export? How do we allocate our water resources among the different sectors, and accordingly do our economic plan that is related to water using industries and agriculture. So this would be ideal. This would be really somewhere that we need to reach. Now, we have a lot of challenges, but Chadi, now today, since this is raised, I promise that we will be discussing our strategies together very soon. So back to you, Rana.
Thank you, Suzy. Okay, great. Some good news. So now we will go to the energy perspective with Pierre, who is the General Director and President of the Board at LCEC. Pierre, there was a lot of talk from both the water and the agriculture perspective about the importance of renewable energy, the role that it plays, especially during these times, and how central it is to the operation of both. If you can talk to us a bit more about your opinion on this topic, and how you are going about to further promote the energy efficiency and renewable energy in different sectors, maybe not only water and agriculture.
Thank you, Rana, and thank you, Marc, for the presentation. It was really an interesting presentation, and the data presented was really nice, and I think we can have some initial comments regarding the study. First, one key issue is data collection, and I think Marc has mentioned this, and it's extremely important, especially at the level of authorities like wastewater treatment plants and water authorities facilities. It's extremely important to have a centralized data collection system in order to be able to monitor the operation and the efficiency of these facilities. This is a major item. One second comment is regarding the operation and maintenance. of facilities by the water authorities. It's clear that the Beirut and Mount Lebanon water establishment has a good or a better average than the other three water authorities or establishments. And this is due to one simple fact, which is that consumers do pay their bills, specifically in the city of Beirut and in the Mount Lebanon area. So practically, the Beirut and Mount Lebanon Water Authority is healthy from a financial point of view. It's healthy. They do have a lot of money to be able to maintain and sustain their facilities, and which is not the case in the remaining three parts in the south, in the Bekaa, and in the north. So one key issue is the payment by consumers, especially big consumers. I'm not talking really about the residential household. We have big water consumers in Lebanon, and it's essential for all these entities to pay their dues, to pay the annual payments to the water authorities for the water establishment or authorities to do their job. The third part is regarding planning. Again, Marc mentioned something about planning, and it is essential because we do know that many of the wastewater plants which were built in Lebanon, specifically after the end of the civil war, like in the 90s period, and which were funded, unfortunately, by international donors, were extremely overrated, and the planning was absolutely non-existent. This is why we have a lot of wastewater plants which are not operating at the optimal functionality or the optimal operation, and this is an important point. Now, the key message or the key point that I would like to share with you is, again, what Marc has mentioned, and this is to rethink the relationship between EDL and the water establishment and the wastewater plants operators. Now, most facilities, they do operate using EDL electricity, and they do operate using private generators. Unfortunately, water authorities do not pay their electricity bill to EDL like many other public entities, so we're not blaming them. We're just saying if an operator is not paying its electricity bill to EDL, he or she will not be interested in having any efficiency in its plant. So this is one major idea. One major idea is to oblige water authorities, as well as all public entities, governmental buildings, schools, public schools, governmental hospitals, everybody needs to pay their electricity bill to EDL in order for them to care about energy efficiency. Now, solar PV, specifically solar photovoltaic system for water pumping and for the use inside water authorities and wastewater plants, it is increasing, but it's increasing because of one single reason, because these authorities need to pay the price of diesel for their private gensets. And during times when EDL, during brownouts or blackouts by EDL, these plants need to function on gensets, and these gensets need diesel oil. And whenever authorities need to pay for their diesel oil, this is really painful for them from a financial point of view. And accordingly, this is why we see an increase in investment in solar pumping at water wells and wastewater power plants. So this is one essential point. Now, some conclusions, because I don't want to take too much time. One thing would be really necessary to link the budget by the Ministry of Energy and Water given to water authorities based on the efficiency that they are implementing in their facilities. So this is an essential part, because all budgets for the 4 water establishments need to be approved by the Minister of Energy and Water or by the Ministry of Energy and Water. And that accordingly, it would be wise to link the budget increase or decrease, to link it to the efficiency or the operation done by the water establishment and the water facilities under the control of the water establishment. So this is one major idea. The second major idea, again, would be to oblige water authorities to pay their EDL bills. EDL need to get paid in order to ensure a service. And the third conclusion would be to ask consumers to pay their annual bills. They need to pay their annual bills for authorities to build solar farm. Now, one last thing, Rana, you've mentioned regarding committees. No, at the internal level, we don't need a committee. The role of the General Directorate of Exploitation, Mudir Amil al-Istismar, is to coordinate. So you don't need to have another, you have an administration with employees and the Director General, our friend Mr. Ghassan Noureddin, he's the Director General, and the job of his team is to coordinate and to do the monitoring and to make sure that the plants are working at an optimal level. So this is their job. So no, we don't need more committees. We don't need a new committee between the Ministry of Energy and Water and the Ministry of Agriculture, as mentioned by Mr. Mohanna. This is the role of government. So whenever you have a government, it's a platform for ministries to coordinate. So this is, again, we don't need to add other layers to this issue. The last point regarding the mechanisms that were part of the recommendations. Marc, again, in the presentation, talked about collective net metering, our wheeling. All these mechanisms are part of the decentralized renewable energy draft law, which is currently under study by EDL, the ministry, with support from EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So hopefully, when this law is approved by the Parliament, and hopefully in the near future it would be approved by the Parliament, then we will have a good platform to use all these mechanisms and push water establishment and wastewater plants towards having more energy efficiency and more renewable energy. Last comment, Suzy has mentioned that we have champions. Definitely, and actually we do have champions. The General Director of the Litani Authority is really a champion. The work done by the South Water Establishment, again, he is a champion. But what we need effectively are systems. We do have champions. We need more of systems in order to keep things sustainable for the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. I think you really raised a very sensitive topic when you talk about the need for the water establishment to be actually paying for ADL. I think this is something that on its own needs a session, because as we all know, the water establishments themselves are struggling with their cost recovery. So if we saw the numbers that Marc shared, maybe didn't share all of them, if they have to really pay all of their debt to the ADL, I think they will not be able to operate anymore. And this has a lot to do, of course, with their collection of bills, etc. So
this is why consumers need to pay.
Yes, so I think this is really a vicious cycle, especially considering that already the tariff for the water is considered inadequate to cover the cost of the service. So I think this is something to also take into consideration about the importance of coordination between all of these different sectors. Thank you, Pierre, very much. Now we're going to move to the second part of our session. It was already mentioned by our panelists, the importance of innovation during these times, to be able to assist either the water sector, the establishments, or agriculture in having better efficiencies, better interlinkages, and integration. And to tell us a bit more about this topic, we have with us Ramy Boujawdeh, who is the Deputy General Manager at Berytech, who's going to now give us a presentation on CleanTech and the role of SMEs in integrating the water, energy, food, solid waste management, as well as other sectors. Ramy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rana. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Okay. My screen is clear, correct? Is there? Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, Rana, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to share this presentation that was also based on a joint effort between Berytech and the Issam Faris Institute at the American University of Beirut. And the discussion today is about the clean tech sector and the role of SMEs in pushing innovation forward, and what would it take for those innovations to flourish and grow in Lebanon. So just to give an overview about clean tech, so the clean tech sector is referring to various companies and technologies that aim to improve and enhance environmental sustainability using the technology and technology engineering and science to make it happen. Basically, we're focusing on different sectors, namely renewable energy, water efficiency, waste management efficiency, and different environmental friendly methods and practices. The three main goals of clean tech is develop technologies to protect the environment, repair damage done to the environment, and conserve and preserve Earth's natural resources. Basically, when we talk about clean energy, we talk about wind, solar, renewable fuels, marine, biomass, geothermal, and so on. In terms of water, we talk about productivity, treatment, transmission, efficiency, monitoring, and compliance. Agriculture could be from farming to controlled environment, sustainable forestry, animal farming, and anything related to the value chain where we could reduce waste as well, and optimization. And when we talk about the air and the environment, we're talking about emission control, bioremediation, recycling, waste treatment, and so on. Berytech and the Issam Forest Institute have worked together on assessing the enabling environment needed for strengthening the business advancement and job creation in the agri-food and clean tech sector. We wanted to see how can we interlink the three sectors of energy, water, and food, and how they could contribute to the Nexus approach, and how could innovation play a role there. Why are SMEs important in the clean tech sector? Well, we all know that smaller businesses, especially innovative ones, are conducive to the rise of innovations in general, but especially in the clean tech sector. This is an up and growing sector. It focuses mainly on innovation, technology, engineering, and science, as I mentioned, and they have a lot of potential to disrupt the old practices that were done that are damaging or being inefficient to our environment. They can improve the implementation of use of clean tech in the public sector at all levels, whether it's local, national, or regional, whether it's monitoring the sector or implementing new changes in it. And they can promote the emergence of high quality companies with positive impact on the economy and the job creation. And that's a good way to retain the brain drain that is happening and accelerated at this stage in Lebanon. Lebanon has a well-developed entrepreneurship scene. It used to be the second in place among the Arab region in terms of value and deals pre the situation. I think now we're going backward quickly. Around 4 out in 10 of the adult population in Lebanon either starting or running a new or an established business. Most of the startups and investments are in the field of technology and other sectors such as agriculture and environment. The clean tech sector is a cross-cutting, both including water, waste, and energy. When it comes to the agriculture and environment, the clean tech sector is a cross-cutting, both including water, waste, and energy. Developing solutions that address challenges in these sectors require a careful understanding of the governance of this sector, who works on what in terms of management and role division, support from international organization, and engagement of the private sector in operations and management. And we've learned a lot through these studies, especially also at Berytech with the work of our startups. When it comes to the water sector, for example, how dependent the sector is on the public sector. How much, all those innovations have to pass through, local governments, regional governments, water establishments, and so on to be able to flourish and grow, especially when we're talking about, wastewater management, water efficiencies, and how much policy can play a role in making those a potential business that could grow, flourish, and make impact in Lebanon and regionally. So what were the key factors that made up the enabling environments? So here we're talking about 3 pillars: the political, the economical, and the social element and environmental element. So on the political side, for us to have an enabling environment, we need peace and political stability that determine that stability, good governance, social dialogue and industrial relationship, respect for universal human rights and international labor law. Many of those are now really in jeopardy. Economy, we want enabling policies and regulatory environment, sound macroeconomical policies and good management of the economical situation, infrastructure that is needed to grow, and technological capabilities of the organization, the people, and anybody who is implementing those innovations. When it comes to the social element and the environmental elements, we're looking at the entrepreneurship culture, the education, training, and lifelong learning, social justice and social inclusion, and social protection. And I think when it comes to the first 2 points, when it comes to the entrepreneurship culture, the level of education, and in the STEM sector, I think we grade high here. But some of the other pillars are really missing. When we compare Lebanon, in terms of regulatory performance versus the other countries in the region, we see that Lebanon grades maybe better than others in terms of ease of doing business and starting a business, protecting minorities, paying taxes, and resolving insolvency. But still, if we compare this to the rest of the regions outside of our neighboring regions, we do score quite low. During the last year, we've worked on mapping SMEs. So we connected with 160 SMEs that responded in the 3 sectors. We've got 33 responses in the solid waste sector, 79 in the energy, and 48 in the water. That represents, mainly energy represented almost 50% of the survey. So some of those challenges are sectorial, but they also extend to the nexus approach of the water and energy. One, the lack of access to finance was a major concern, especially after the financial collapse of the banking sector and the economic downturn. The absence of government laws and policies were also a major hurdle for them. The lack of regulations, policies for clean tech implementation and adaptation, which was not conducive for those businesses to scale and grow in a way or another. They all highlighted that it's a lengthy bureaucratic governmental procedures causing the delay in the implementation of laws, regulations, decisions, and decrees. And we all know that there is a lot of laws in parliament that have been issued, but there is no decrees for implementation, and they are lacking as well. There is an absence of essential primary material. So the government's role in offering incentives for trade agreement, import tariff reduction, etc., are lacking. What else? So we have lack of enabling support for export, lack of support for R&D fields. It reflects on both the hardware and physical assets that the SMEs present and the software of know-how and skills that the SMEs also exhibit. And there is lack of productive connection between SMEs and academia. It felt like there is 2 different worlds that are not connected. And that has a lot of potential. And I believe in the current situation with the whole crisis, the universities have the potential here to reinvent that linkage and put a lot of efforts there. What are our opportunities? Well, entrepreneurship support institutions and sector-specific acceleration program provide an enabling environment to develop startups in the sector. And I must say, we have a number of those startups that are in our program at Berytech that are highly promising. And I hope that we'll be able to work with a number of players in governmental institutions and investment institutions to help them scale, because they do have a lot of interesting solutions. And we hope that procurement, especially public procurement, when it comes to introducing innovative solutions, could help scale those innovations. International donors' interest in the Lebanese green and environmental sector, clean tech. So there are a number of regional programs and local programs that are focusing on climate change, improvement of green practices, and so on. And we hope that we can tap into this to help scale these SMEs and innovative startups. An ability to shift the business type according to the market needs by pivoting or changing the needs and positioning for those businesses that are established to be able to grow in a way. Adequate geographical environment and climate conditions to develop and implement the solutions in this sector. Technical expertise, know-how of human resources in the private sector. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of graduates in STEM. We lose a lot due to brain drain, but if we can transform or translate a lot of those raw gems from universities and maybe direct them more into the clean tech sector, there could be a lot of potential for them to start, scale, and grow businesses and work in businesses from Lebanon to the rest of the world. There are availability of different programs supporting technology transfer and communication between different stakeholders, and those need to be, there need to be a shedding of light on those programs so that there is more and more benefit from it. And we want to make sure that we use strong academic and research institutions to build on their knowledge. So in terms of calls of actions, what are the needs? Some of those were highlighted in the survey and the working groups that we have. So coordinated tax incentives issued by the government institution on primary materials so that we could import and transform. Identify and implement alternative financial schemes to fund innovation for SMEs in clean tech. And I think this is going to be somehow a bit of a long road for the time being. Identify and use areas of innovation for clean tech to guide the donors community agenda and attract fresh grants and funds, which I'm hoping that with the papers that we're going to generate and everybody on this call, we could maybe shed the light also here on the importance of it. Identify potential procurement by the donor community to buy and support local developed clean tech solutions by SMEs. And I would add here, maybe at a certain point when the government will be able to do some procurement for infrastructure updates and that they could also be looking into facilitating procuring things from startups or SMEs. Identify areas for business improvement through training, certification programs for SMEs, and find alternative solutions and shortcuts to avoid governmental institutional bureaucratic delays that hinder the implementation of any decision or decree. The creation of a joint committee between all academic teams involved in innovation at the level of universities and then between academia and the SMEs. And hopefully connections also with the larger industrial sectors to see how we could leverage all of this. With that, I thank you and I go back to the floor for Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Ramy. I want to ask you a question. Considering that this project that we've been jointly working on for the last year, and that really involved a lot of outreach with SMEs or with the public institutions, different stakeholders, academia, it always kept coming up, and it was clear that there's a great disconnect between the private sector, the SMEs themselves, and the public, as well as the academia and the research. It was not clear what are the needs and sometimes the opportunities that are available out there. In your opinion, in your experience and your work through Berytech, where do you think, what is the entry point to start changing the situation? Who needs to make the step to have more communication between these different stakeholder groups?
Well, I think part of the challenges that were there, especially at the R&D level at the academic side, was the challenge of the IP policies and regulations at university. Historically, a lot of the promotion mechanisms at universities were linked to publication. So the more the university publishes in high-end journals, highly scientific journals, the faster the academic could go up the chain in their career. And the policies at universities were not clear in terms of IP ownership. So if a researcher would put a lot of effort on developing, a technology, who will own the IP? Why will it be important for him? Will it affect his growth, his development, his career? And that was not clear. Now, I must say, in the last few years, there have been a lot of efforts in universities to push for more of that, more IP valorization. There are several universities that are going through workshops or went through workshops to develop their IP policies. There are a number of universities that are developing more entrepreneurship programs at university, pushing faculty, researchers, and students to innovate. So there's more and more potential there. But the trust needs to be built now. I think there's also the lack of collaboration between academia and the industry. There are a number of activities that are done, like the LIRA program, which is an excellent initiative that have been there, but there is more to be done there. There's more facilitation that could be done through, different ministries, through different initiatives, chambers of commerce. I think there is more stakeholders that could play a big role here to push it further. And in the clean tech sector, I think there is more to be done because innovation could be done in technology and so on. So it's not a big cost versus other, petrochemicals and whatnot, where things would take maybe longer or more complex solutions.
Okay, thank you, Ramy. And you just gave me the perfect entry point to talk with Ms. Soha Yazbek, who is the head of technical training department at the Ministry of Industry, who can maybe talk to us a bit more about the role that industry can play in better integrating the different sectors. How can they maybe play a role in having a better connection with academia, researcher, as well as the other public stakeholders that are concerned at this interface of all the sectors. Soha, please, the floor is yours.
مرحبا. سامعين اسمعوا الحكي؟
سامعينك سو.
مرحبا للجميع وبشكر دعوتكم لنا لهيدا المنتدى، وانا رح اعمل مداخلتي بالعربي وان شاء الله الزوم ما يقطش عندي حتى نضل نحكي هال5 دقائق. بنرجع بنقول نشكر دعوتنا لهذا المنتدى، وعلى انه تناولت مواضيع مرتبطه بالبيئه والتلوث والصحه، وخاصة إنه بهالفترة سنة ونص بسبب الظروف الاقتصادية والوضع الصحي تبين لنا قديش أهمية دور القطاع الصناعي والاعتماد على الصناعات الوطنية والإنتاج الوطني والمحلي. نحن بوزارة الصناعة بالشراكة والتعاون مع مختلف الجهات والقطاع الصناعي الخاص ناخد المواضيع اللي لها علاقة بحماية البيئة بمسؤولية عالية، ومننسق مع سائر المعنيين بهذه المواضيع لحتى نستبق الأمور السلبية. مسموع الحكي ولا؟
تفضلي سامعينك سهى.
فنحن في تنسيق مستمر مع سائر المعنيين لحتى نستبق الأمور السلبية ولا نكون عم نقوم بدورنا على أكمل وجه. دور وزارة الصناعة مسؤولياتها هي من خلال الرقابة الدورية والمفاجئة. فإذا بنطلع على الخطة الاستراتيجية لوزارة الصناعة اللي هي من 2018 لل 2025 إنه بتبين قديش دور وزارة الصناعة فاعل وقديش بتهتم بالقطاع الصناعي لحتى يتوجه نحو الاستدامة. من أهم أهداف التخطيط الاستراتيجي لوزارة الصناعة اللي له علاقة بالموضوع اليوم هو المحافظة على البيئة وحمايتها. فبهذا المجال وزارة الصناعة كانت عم تشتغل على تطوير المناطق الصناعية الموجودة القديمة وإنشاء تطوير وإنشاء مناطق صناعية جديدة لحتى يصير في تحديث للبنى التحتية الموجودة، أو إنه تكون المناطق الصناعية الجديدة عم تشتغل ببنى تحتية بتواكب التطور. وكمان وزارة الصناعة من هذه الأهداف بالتخطيط الاستراتيجي إنه بنعمل على حث المصانع للعمل على الطاقة البديلة والخضراء، وعلى تشجيع استعمال الطاقة المتجددة والبديلة. وكمان المؤسسات الصناعية نحن بنشجعها وبنشتغل معهم لحتى يحصلوا على الايزو 14000 حول الإدارة البيئية والايزو 26000 حول المسؤولية المجتمعية. هلا إذا بدنا نحكي بالتخطيط الاستراتيجي، بس إذا بدنا نرجع نحكي بالدور المستمر والروتيني لدور وزارة الصناعة، بيكون من خلال لجان التراخيص أو من خلال الترخيص اللي بتحصل عليه المؤسسات الصناعية. فمع كل ترخيص نحن عندنا شروط لترشيد استعمال المياه، يعني المصنع من أحد الشروط اللي بده يحصل عليها ليحصل على ترخيص صناعي هو ترشيد استخدام المياه الصناعية بشكل عام لكل المصانع. هلا في عندنا حالات بيكون فيها انه بعض الصناعات بيكون في لها يعني ترشيد استخدام مياه بشكل تفصيلي اكثر، فنحن هيدا الموضوع نحن بحاجه له معنا اياه كثير بشكل مفصل. يعني هون اذا بدنا نجي نحكي شو انه لازم ننشغل عليه، هو دراسه مفصله لكل نوع من الصناعه، لانه نحن بدنا ناخذ كمان بدنا معلومات وبدنا داتا عن كل نوع صناعه، شو استخدامه للمياه وشو بيطلع عنده نفايات صناعيه سائله. هذا الشيء ببين انه نحن عندنا رقابه دوريه ورقابه مفاجئه. اذا بدنا نحكي عن التراخيص، فهذا الترخيص ما بيكون من صادر عن وزاره الصناعه، بيكون صادر مع بلجان تراخيص فيها مختلف الوزارات والجهات المعنيه. فهون بيكون التنسيق بالشكل الروتيني والشكل الدوري، انه من خلال لجان التراخيص مع الوزارات المعنيه. كمان عندنا نحن رقابه لنا بتكون دوريه مفاجئه، لانه المصانع بهمهم يحصلوا على شهادات صناعيه، فالشهاده الصناعيه المصنع بحاجه لها. بيكون هون عندنا دور رقابه لحتى نحن نكون كمان بالنسبه لوزاره البيئه التنسيق كثير معهم دائما ومستمر من ناحيه فرض الالتزام البيئي للمنشآت، تقييم الاثر البيئي، تدقيق بيئي مبدئي، في زيارات مستمره ودوريه للمصانع. اذا كمان بدنا نرجع نحكي على من ناحيه التنسيق، نحن عندنا تنسيق او شغل مع المصلحه الوطنيه لنهر الليطاني من خلال لجنه مشتركه. هذا العمل بلش من اخر 2017. كانت اللجنه مصغره وعم تشتغل بشكل كثير محدود على الحوض الادنى. كان بلشنا الشغل بعدد كثير قليل من الفنيين او من الهندسين اللي بدهم يكشفوا. رجعنا بسنة 2018 كمان رجعنا وسعنا هيدي اللجنة، ومن بعد ما أخذنا معلومات وشفنا المصانع اللي ملتزمة ومصانع إنه كيف لحتى نوجهها لحتى تصير ملتزمة بيئيا. كمان 2019 انشغل على المصانع بالحوض الأعلى لنهر الليطاني. هذا كله بالتنسيق مع وزارة البيئة ومع المصلحة الوطنية لنهر الليطاني. في كتير مصانع كانت ما بتعرف شيء يعني التزام بيئي، وما كان عندها محطات تكرير وما بتعرف شيء، وعم ترمي نفاياتها دون معالجة وبشكل انه هيك بالطبيعة بالمياه السطحية بالنهر. النهر كتير كان فيه تلوث. هلا نحن ما فينا نقول انه وقفنا التلوث، بس كنا مبلشين نحن والمصلحة الوطنية لنهر الليطاني ووزارة البيئة بشغل كتير منيح. وبس انه الوضع الاقتصادي والوضع الصحي كورونا يعني كوفيد 19 كثير يعني وقف لنا حركه شغلنا، لانه نحن بال 2020 كمان رجعنا عملنا وسعنا هيدي اللجنه لحتى تشمل الحوض الادنى مش بس الحوض الاعلى. وكان فيها عدد اكبر من الفنيين لحتى نقدر نقوم بالمسح والتوجيه لهيدي المصانع، لانه عملنا نحن وزاره البيئه مثل دليل توجيهي لحتى تعرف المصانع انه شو هي الاساليب او الطرق لحتى تقدر تعالج نفاياتها، لانه هيدا ما كان حدا بيعرف شو نفايات، وما كان عنده حدا اي ادنى فكره انه كيف وين بده يروح لحتى يقدر اي جهه بدها تساعده او اي شركه بده يروح لها لحتى يعمل معالجه. فكانت هذه المنهجيه مثل بتساعد لهالصناعيين لحتى يقدروا يبلشوا يشوفوا كيف بدهم يعالجوا نفاياتهم. بال 2020 وبالرغم من كوفيد 19 باخرها اشتغلنا نحن والمصلحه الوطنيه لنهر الليطاني على معاصر الزيتون، لانه كان الموسم مبلش وما فينا كنا ننطر للسنه اللي جايه لانه هو عصر الزيتون شيء موسمي. واشتغلنا شغل كثير نحن وياهم بالحوض الاعلى وبالحوض الادنى على كل معاصر الزيتون الموجوده بهيدي المناطق. هذا فيما يتعلق بالعمل مع المصلحه الوطنيه لنهر الليطاني. وفي كمان وزارة الصناعة عندها مشاريع مختلفة مثل ما تست 2 اللي هو برنامج لاستخدام المياه بالصناعات اللبنانية ممول من USAID. انشغل على 8 مصانع رخام وصخر، وهيدي المصانع بتستخدم كميات كبيرة من المي، يعني أكيد بيطلع عندها نفايات صناعية كتير بكمية كتير كبيرة. وكان الهدف من هذا المشروع تأمين مياه نظيفة، لأنه هن بحاجة للمياه اللي بيرجعوا بيعالجوها ليرجعوا يستخدموها. وهذا المشروع انتهى بسنة 2019 ورجع استكمل بماد تيست 3. والهدف انه توسيع نطاق كفاءة استخدام الموارد بالقطاع الصناعي، يعني مش بس انتهى الماد تيست 2، في هلا ماد تيست 3. هذا الماد تيست 3 هو بمنطقة الدكواني والبوشرية لهالمصانع بهالمناطق الصناعية. بماد تيست 2 بين عنا توفير حوالي 1.6 مليون دولار سنويا من خلال استخدام الرشيد للمواد الأولية والطاقة والمياه. يعني كانت 8 مصانع انه اخذت نتيجه من هذا البرنامج، ولانه في بلبنان 500 مصنع مناشير حجر. يعني اذا هودي المصانع ال8 كانوا هن مثل نموذج للمصانع الثانيه وتم توجيهها وارشادها لحتى تقدر توفر بالموارد، يعني كثير بصير في توفير. هلا بالنسبه نحن إذا بدنا نجي نحكي عن القوانين والتشريعات، نحن بنشوف إنه في القوانين كلها موجودة والتشريعات موجودة، بس في بعض القوانين فيها غموض وفيها تضارب صلاحيات. يعني كل وزارة أو كل جهة بتقول إنه هذه صلاحياتي. فهي إذا القوانين الموجودة يعني تم تحديثها ونشغل عليها لحتى انه تكون واضحه اكثر او نعمل لها مراسيم تطبيقيه، بعتقد انه هي كافيه. بس نحن بس اكثر شيء نحن يعني البيانات، قاعده بيانات او معلومات عن كل مجال هي نحن بحاجه لها لحتى تكون موجوده بين ايدينا. هلا اذا بدنا نرجع نحكي كمان عن التنسيق، حكينا انه نحن مع كل الجهات المعنيه عندنا تنسيق وتنسيق مستمر. و نحن كمان بنهتم بالإرشاد والتوجيه، وبناخذ القرارات الضرورية لحتى إذا نحن صار لقينا مخالفين في مجال إذا بدنا نحكي نرجع للتلوث الصناعي، بناخذ إجراءات ضرورية. يعني نحن مش دغري بنروح على إنه نسكر مصنع أو نعمل له قرار بالإقفال أو نعطي أو يعني فرصة لحتى نرجع نعطيهم مهل لهالمخالفين، ونرجع نعطيهم مجال لحتى انه يصلحوا ويعملوا الاجراءات التصحيحيه اللازمه. وكمان في شغله كثير اساسيه ومهمه، انه نحن عم نقوم بالكشوفات والرقابه مع توعيه للمصانع المرخصه، بس عم نلاقي كثير صعوبات بالمعرفه اماكن وشغل وعمل المصانع الغير المرخصة. وخاصة بهالفترة الأخيرة نشطت كثير مصانع المواد التنظيف والمعقمات، وكلها هيدي إنه إذا ما كانت مراقبة من أي جهة بالدولة، يعني هي كلها بتكون منا مطابقة ولا إنه ضمن المعايير المطلوبة. هلا فيما يخص التلوث أو استعمال المياه أو ترشيد استخدام المياه، فالمصانع الغير مرخصة ما يعني نلاقي كثير صعوبة لحتى نلاقيها لحتى تتجاوب، وخاصة إنه البلديات ما بتساعدنا بهيدي المواضيع لحتى نقدر نكون عم نغطي المصانع وحتى تتساوى كل الناس ببعضها. يعني نحن إنه هذا هو دور، إذا بدنا نحكي بشكل عام، التحديات والتنسيق ودور وزارة الصناعة.
شكرا كثير. اكيد اعطيتينا وجهه نظر الاندستري وكيف هن كمان في يكون عندهم دور مهم بانه يصير في عندهم انتجريشن بقلب شغلهم بين الطاقه والمي، واكيد موضوع التلوث اللي ناتج عن الاندستريز اللي هو كمان عم بيأثر على المي عنا. رح انتقل هلا the speaker, I will switch again to English. Now I will move to Najib Abishid, who is the senior environmental expert at the Ministry of Environment. Clearly, there was a lot of talk about the interlinkages between water, between energy, with food, and the industry, and the role that they can play in all of this. But I think what comes across all of these topics is the environmental issue. Either the impacts or the opportunities that having an integrated approach could actually have for an improved and sustainable environment. If we can have, please, your insight on this topic. The floor is yours, Mr. Najib.
Okay. Can I share my screen? Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. And this is my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for this forum, for inviting me to this forum, and thank you all. And Soha, I will not be redundant with what you said, because Soha said many things which are related to our work together in fighting pollution in the Litani River, and we were together in these field trips during 2019 and 2018, and this year we didn't go. Okay, we didn't go due to this pandemic. Okay, so I will speak briefly about the role of the Ministry of Environment with some governance. Okay, in 1993 we had establishment of the Ministry of Environment. Okay, so MOE is responsible for controlling pollution and regulating all activities that impact the environment. In 2002, protection of the environment, this law 444. 2012, issuance of Decree 8213, Strategic Environmental Assessment, and 2012, issuance of Decree 8633 for the EIA, okay? And it includes all wastewater treatment plants should or must undergo full EIA studies before starting any project. Okay, it needs approval, and this approval requires a committee at the Ministry of Environment, and it requires minimum 2 months, okay, to review, and it goes up to maybe 1 year, you know, because we have some addendums needed and all this. Not all projects get approval, but, you know, seldom. In 2012, also issuance of the Decree 8471, environmental compliance degree for industries. And 2001, we have this ministerial decision number 8/1 for the amending decision in 1996 for the effluent parameters. And okay, so MOE has set standards for treated effluent, the pollutant levels due to this decision, and it's titled characteristics and standard related to air pollutants and liquid waste emitted from classified establishments and wastewater treatment plants before disposing into three ambient areas like public sewers, surface water, and the sea. It's not related to irrigation, you know, just sea, surface water, and sewers. And usually the sea, it's not sea outfall. So it's maybe during in the fishing zone or the swimming zone, okay? It's not in the sea outfall. So I will go directly. I will not be, I said that I will not be redundant with what Soha said, but we were together, okay? But I have to say about the technologies used in wastewater treatments, okay? But I will point on two different things. Okay, so important to use technologies in wastewater treatment that reduce sludge production, especially if the sludge has no use or it is problematic in the country. Okay, let me say something. Because we studied at the Ministry of Environment about, for me alone, about 100 or 150 wastewater, cases of EIAs, audits. Okay, for the wastewater treatment plants, the technologies so used, I didn't see any technology regarding to reduce sludge. I see technologies, all of them produce sludge in high quantity or in normal quantity. And we know later on that sludge is like solid waste. It will be a problem. Okay, so sludge for Lebanon is a problem at the problem now, but it's, sludge is a good material for it's a good material for other countries, because we can produce from it biogas, bioenergy, for land, for irrigation, for land reclamation, or land for crops, fertilizer. So, for example, and the technologies used. So if we have availability of land, why not go in the natural treatment system? I know that the natural treatment systems requires land, okay? Maybe for the lagoons, ponds, one person requires about 10 square meters of land. But for example, I can give an example. Lagoon, ponds, and wetlands, or constructed wetlands. For example, we have Hermel area. So there is a treatment plant now, maybe they started this treatment plant because we studied the EIA. And they are going into same technologies used in other places in Lebanon. Even we have land in Hermel and other regions in Bekaa Valley. Why not go into these natural treatment systems? Okay, why we are going to? Because we don't have much sludge. Okay, and in the south of Italy, they use these natural treatment systems. They combine systems between natural treatment system and the small, primary treatments. They don't need this sludge for high scale. Okay, and if land is not available, why not going into advanced technologies like MBR, CSTR? But it needs some qualified operators, or other anaerobic technologies like IC is used merely for industrial wastewater. Okay, we are using in Lebanon, I don't know, in Lebanon, because I saw the Marc presentation, and from my knowledge, we have activated sludge, extended aeration, activated sludge, trickling filter, and all these technologies, okay, they produce sludge. And for example, I can give you an example about what they are doing with the sludge in Lebanon. For example, in Salata region, the sludge is dumped near the area. I don't know if you watched LBC last week or before. They said about the problem of sludge discharged or dumped near the treatment plant in Salata, Batron area. And, they put lime on it, but it's like, it's like a small, it's like a small mountain near the area there, because they are not allowed to dump it in Adwe. In Adwa, they usually take it to Adwe and they put it there with a dumping there. So the sludge now, they want to make a hole, and they put like a liner, and they put the sludge, and they put land, earth above it. This is the only solution for now, because also they are not allowed. We are not having space or volume to put the sludge with the solid waste, with the landfilling, okay, with solid waste facilities in Beirut or other regions. Okay, this is a problem, for the future. And okay, sustainable solution for sewage sludge, for example. Important to use technology in wastewater treatment. I said this, if we don't have use natural treatment system. And for example, Zahli wastewater treatment plant in Bekaa produced the highest sewage sludge in the Bekaa region and all Lebanon at the moment. Why? Because it's the, I can say, the treatment plant which is working with the highest capacity at the moment. We are producing about 24,000 cubic meter per year as volume, okay, of sludge. And maybe last year or before, we have also problems from this sludge which was dumped in the mountains, okay, in Bekaa Valley, and we have some issues regarding it. So the sludge from Zahli wastewater treatment plant is like household plus various industries and agri-food cow farm manure. This treatment plant in Zahle also it has some problems, you know, when working, because we have agri-food cow farm manure, and the manure is going into the sewer network directly into the treatment plants, and all the sieves there, they have these fine screens, they are blocked. Okay, many times we have complaints about this treatment plant, okay, and complaints from these industries. Okay, and this is a draft usage or disposal of sludge. These terms, the green process, red process, black process, this is the draft about Caraon Lake from Cabinet Merlin. So I use these terms. So scenarios or how to process the sludge. They have these scenarios like green process, like unpolluted sludge. Okay, what does it mean unpolluted sludge? Usually sludge, it needs treatment, you know, before discharging. So unpolluted sludge, it means compliant. It means we have only household. Okay, most probably we can say mostly household, and it's compliant because we have to test the sludge before using it. So it's compliant with the environmental parameters, so we can use it in agricultural recovery, fertilizer for crops, like composting, spreading. We don't have this technique yet in spreading. And in 2040, they say in the 30% of the sludge will be used in Lebanon. So just 30% of the whole amount of sludge in Lebanon will be used in this process, like a green process. It's the least expensive in terms of implementation. Okay, so it's a good way of treating and reusing or using sludge. So just to say about reusing, I don't approve about this term because usually when they say sludge reuse, okay, so we are not using it to reuse it. So it's sludge use. Okay, so what about the red process? So the red process is like polluted sludge. It's industrial. When we have industrial pollution inside the sludge coming to the treatment plants, it's non-compliant, and the treatments will be thermal treatment, incineration. Okay, it's extensively we use energy. This is energy extensive and it's expensive. And we have the black process, like polluted sludge. Okay, also like the red process, but it's much better. And we have like landfilling, buried with municipal solid waste in special cells or in dedicated landfills. Okay, this is about sludge. And for the industrial sector, because I have one idea or comment regarding the industrial sector, because we saw a lot when we went there. I saw a lot, you know, for example, I can tell you about my experience about this. I went 2019, we went there before October 17. And it was the last day we went on October 17 when the riots started. I saw many people, many industrial, they use they usually Litani River LRA, they usually test only the effluent. They never tested the influent. So I went there, I told them you have to test influent and effluent, because I saw many industrials, they dilute the water. Okay, so when someone goes to take the sample, they open the fountains in the industry or the hot water, and all the water will be diluted and the testing will be wrong. So when they test influent and effluent, so everything will be more normal to check which is wrong or which is, if there is any fraud or something. Also, the technologies used in the industrial sector now, okay, all these treatment plants used are not sustainable. Okay, for example, I saw many technologies like milk industries, okay, cheese and milk industries, small industries like class 4 or class 3. Say they used a technology like MBR. Okay, so MBR for cheese and milk and all this, it does not work. And the cost of this, one industrial said that it costs him every month $1,000 just for electricity. And the MBR system, the membranes are always blocked. So every month they go twice or 3 times to open these membranes, and they are broken, or and this technology will not work for cheese, milk, and we have other industries like, you know, we have other industries, they use complex systems, like they have milk cheese and they have tomato juice and all this combined in one sewer network. What kind of treatment plant you need? They cannot separate because everything is built and set. So, for example, a sustainable solution which I recommended for one industry which has not too much wastewater, and his wastewater is too much salty, and he has land. I recommended him to use like evaporation pond. No need, for example, they went there, they put for him a treatment plant like $20,000, $25,000, and it was like membrane bioreactor, reverse osmosis. You know, they used all these technologies just because he has like 10 cubic meter per every 3 months. Okay, just and it's combined system of processes in his. So it was very useful to him if he has too much salt in his wastewater to reduce it through evaporation pond, and he has land. Okay, it's not a big land. So anyway,
Najib, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just because we are running a bit over time, and I really want to get you an answer on your question regarding the use of nature-based wastewater solutions from Suzy, who is still with us. So maybe she can, just for the sake of time, give us an answer on this topic.
And I can also answer. Okay.
Okay. If you can answer why you put it as a problem. We all know that we try our best to make nature-based solutions, and it really depends. It's all about the feasibility study and the magnitude and the size of the treatment plant. There are a lot designed and built a little bit everywhere. No, not everywhere, but wherever possible, we have this option. I am too for having nature-based solutions, but wherever possible and wherever feasible. So yes, maybe in Hermel, I don't know, it's, when it was studied, maybe it's too big to be nature-based or a wetland. But anyways, it's not under construction. It wasn't constructed yet. But I also have a lot to say about the sludge that was presented. We cannot always see one part of the problem. The sludge problem is a very big part of the problem, and there are other factors that come into play. For example, if we are talking about the Salata treatment plant, the original design was made for the sludge to be transferred to the incinerator at the Tripoli wastewater treatment plant, but we know that the incinerator is not working there, and in the meantime they try to find a temporary solution. So it's a complicated subject that needs a look from all sides. Of course, it's a problem. Of course, it's a difficult problem, but we need to tackle it from all sides. So that's what I will have to say. I cannot take a lot more of your time. I would like to hear what Michele has to say before we leave. I think he's the last one, right?
Yeah, I didn't finish maybe. Okay.
I'm sorry, Najib. I thought that was okay.
I don't know.
Back to you, Rana. Back to you, Najib.
Yes, Rana, okay. Yes, Rana?
Rana, you're muted.
Yeah, okay. Moment. So I want to talk about this industrial sectors. Okay, for the industrial sector, I don't know why they don't design like a medium industrial wastewater treatment plant in an industrial zone for each sector of industrial production, like milk and cheese industries. I recommended this solution, and even municipalities in Bekaa region, they didn't take it into consideration. You know, it's much affordable for like different industries having like cheese and milk and others. For just one treatment plant or two treatment plants in different areas, they transport their wastewater just to these treatment plants, and they pay only for each cubic meter of treatment, like everybody doing everywhere in the world. So, for example, and I don't know, I recommended this solution, but in Bekaa region, they didn't, I don't know. It needs some discussion regarding this.
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is really a topic that is very big, and I think it's another also aspect of the linkages that exist between all the sectors, and this is another reason why coordination and communication should really start early on and at different scales. I think we will have to move on, Mr. Najib, if you don't have really something very pressing to say.
No, just one word, one idea. It's about like sludge. You know, I have a scenario for sludge. I don't know. They use it maybe in not Cyprus, but also in Europe. They use the human sludge or from treatment plants. They make one big biogas plant or bioenergy plant. They mix the sludge coming from the treatment plant of households or municipal wastewater treatment plants with manure coming from cows, farm manures, pig manures, and chicken manures, and other, you know, and they make like 30%. It's a combination of all, and it's also as a solution, okay, solution for sludge, and they produce biogas or bioenergy, and they give. Okay, this is also a scenario I propose. Thank you. This is my final statement.
Thank you very much. I will move quickly to Michele Pierpaoli. He is the program manager of water and wastewater at the delegation of the European Union in Lebanon. And Michele is going to just give us some kind of quick insight on his opinion about this topic. I think, Michele, there was a bit of blame in some places today for the work of international community and the projects and the grants, but there were also some positive aspects regarding how sometimes things are moving because of these projects. So if you can just maybe address this issue a bit.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Oxfam and the Issam Institute for organizing it. So there are a lot of different points. I would just give my point as a donor, the difficulties we find, and also the responsibility sometimes we have in this problem. We have also to acknowledge that. We started with the discussion about the energy nexus, a study actually that we found. The problem of the electricity for the water sector, I want to say, we are discussing about renewable energies for the water sector, but how to say, the problem of the energy, in our opinion, as a donor, should be solved at energy level. Now we are focusing on finding solution for the water sector because there is not the real engagement to solve the problem at the energy sector that would allow also to have the water at a lower price, probably on that. If I have to comment also on the reduction of energy, for sure we can increase the efficiency of the technologies that is implied. And I have to say that I saw in the recent new project that are under study, how this became, thank you also for this initiative launched by the sector, the attention to the most efficient energy, the reduction of the consumption, and also reduction of sludge technology are really much more taken in consideration probably than what they were before. I saw projects that were designed in the past where certain elements were not taken in account. Say, we will think when the project is ended, and we saw that this is creating a problem. So for sure, there is more attention I saw from implementation in taking all these elements in our holistic view in consideration since the beginning. But going back for the water sector, that where we are talking today, probably one of the biggest way to reduce the consumption is to optimize the production and distribution, not just in technology, but are we really giving the water that is needed? Are we reducing the losses? We are overproducing, and there is a huge amount of energy that is wasted in this process. Then moving a bit ahead on what are the other things that have been touched, the coordination between sector is essential for us. We saw many times that unfortunately, we have dialogue, a positive dialogue, but too often just with one ministry, energy and water, talking about the problem of the water sector. It's very welcome, this coordination. With or without committees, this is an internal discussion in the different ministries how to optimize this coordination, but for sure, discussion with the Ministry of Environment, with the Ministry of Agriculture to improve the use and efficiency of the water sector, of the water, is needed. And commenting on what our colleague from LCEC was commenting about the problem of the payment of energy by the water establishment. Yes, is a problem, should be targeted, but we should define a plan. Okay, let's see, we want to get to this result. Let's analyze it. We want to get there in 5 years. What are the actions that are needed to get there? For us, as a donor, that would be the way we would like to intervene, to have in front of us an objective that is in few years where we want to get, and now we can support to get to that level. Unfortunately, what is missing is a general coordinated planning between different sectors. Often we find ourselves funding intervention that are not part of an holistic strategy, putting together all these elements and the real capacity of the sector to operate those infrastructure. So now we're putting a lot of focus on that, and we want to, that for us become the most impelling priority for future funding. I think this came out also on the discussion we had yesterday. When we talk about with the coordination of the ministries, I think it's very important to talk, to be fair, also with the coordination with the Ministry of Interior, probably. Who is enforcing the payment for the tariff on one point, because we know too many times the establishment are left by themselves. For sure, establishments should improve their service, but sometimes there is a problem also related to payment to allow the sustainability. But also, as we touched the discussion about industrial pollution, we have been looking on that problem and to see how we could help. The problem is, and we saw experiences of even industrial district when some intervention was done to promote respect of environmental standard on the discharge of wastewater. Yeah, the infrastructure is funded, is there, but then is not managed. They are not operating it because the costs are high and because there is not a control of an enforcement of the law on the industrial residue. So this should be approached in a very holistic way before trying to solve all the problems just with the new infrastructure. That's the main thing. A plan for us, putting together all these elements and to see in few years how the infrastructure that we can fund, but at the same time, a better planning strategy, a better analysis of the revenues that can be created by this infrastructure, how it will be communicated with the citizen for paying all these kind of things, would really facilitate probably more external resources to support the sector. I really try to be very, very short. Last point about the promotion of initiative from small and medium enterprises, how to promote them. We are very open to that. We are very open to promote also in terms of procurement, facilitating as much as possible, also as we have rules, but procurement and facilitate the deployment of these new technologies in Lebanon in our project. The problem is that we didn't see so many ideas coming out up to now, specifically for the water and wastewater sector. Probably we encourage that. We hope that new interesting ideas could come, and we are ready to promote and to fund them if needed. Over.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Michele, for this overview. A great wrapping up. I think this is the most positive I've seen you lately. So this is a good thing, and something for everyone to consider, especially regarding your openness towards innovation and industries and SMEs in Lebanon. I would like, we went over time. I'm really sorry, but this was a very interesting discussion. I thank you all for staying with us till this time, and our panelists, of course. And I invite you all to also attend the last session of this forum tomorrow at the same time at 12 o'clock. Thank you all, and see you soon.